What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So first I want to thank you guys so much, all of you who watched all the videos from New York last week. It was really cool going to the New York Auto Show for the first time. It was really cool being able to cover all this stuff as it was happening and posting up the videos for you guys. You have an actual walk around instead of just the stock photos that the manufacturers release. And so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. But getting right into the news here for this week, there is still quite a few stories here. The first is a very exciting story about the next gen BRZ in 86 that supposedly is coming. So Japan Times is reporting that a next gen BRZ in 86 is coming around 2021 calendar year, and that it'll have more power, better handling, and a lower center of gravity, and also more safety features. So you know, all that stuff was kind of a given aside from the lower center of gravity. That's going to be kind of hard to beat because it's already really low in the current BRZ in 86. But anyway, so it's claiming it's going to be getting a 2.4 liter boxer engine. So this could go one of two different ways if it's true. It could be the turbo 2.4 liter that's was first introduced in the new Subaru Ascent. In that, it makes 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. That would be very, very nice. Or it could be a naturally aspirated version of that motor that would still have more power than the current 2 liter, of course, but not quite that much. But I mean, you know, I don't think, I mean, some were saying, wow, 260 horsepower would be so much for a BRZ. I think that would make it perfect. I think, you know, any less than that, and it wouldn't be a big enough change from the outgoing, you know, BRZ in 86 here. And it's also fitting that just a couple of weeks ago, the BRZ's chief engineer, who's currently working on the Supra, he said that they couldn't do a turbo version of the BRZ or 86 in his mind unless they came up with a whole new platform, which didn't make a whole lot of sense when he said it, but maybe it was actually just a hint about this upcoming new car, and it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing that it was a little joke in his own mind that no one else got, that, oh yeah, we'd have to do a whole new platform. And people like me, whenever that excuse came out, I was like, what? You don't need a whole new platform just for a new you know, a turbocharged version. You could shift things around because he said the weight balance wouldn't be right and it wouldn't be as perfect handling wise, which is a little OCD in my mind. But anyway, so maybe that's what they're going to do here. Again, this is just a report, nothing, you know, confirmed or official. So we'll have to wait and see. And 2021 is still a very far ways away, so we still have plenty of time here with the current gen. But by that point, it is definitely going to be stale. At that point, it's going to be almost 10 years old. And so, yeah, hopefully that does turn out to be true, though, because a 260 horsepower second-gen BRZ would sound really great. But anyway, that same engineer that is currently working on the Supra, he actually confirmed this past week, thanks to a report from a Japanese magazine InfoSeek, that the new Supra is being developed only with a dual-clutch automatic transmission. So it's better than it being an actual torque converter automatic, which is what we were worried about before. But it's so funny, the excuses they keep saying for why they're not doing a manual here. So it could be, I mean, as far as the dual clutch, it could be a very good dual clutch. Like the current BMW M3 has a great dual clutch. It's being co-developed with BMW. If they can use the M3 dual clutch, I mean, it would be a very impressive transmission, but it doesn't matter how good of an automatic it is, it's still an automatic. And I think that's what Supra fans are upset about. And in this rough translation of this Japanese article, he basically said that with the high torque that the new Supra will have, that's open to interpretation, a manual version will make the shifting feel worse. That's what he said, is we can't do a manual because the shifting wouldn't be as smooth because of the high power numbers. I don't know how high the torque they're planning on, but considering Porsche has manuals in much higher torque models, and you also have Mustangs, Camaros, all with fine shifting manual transmissions. I owned a BRZ for 2 years. It shifted nicely, but I wouldn't say that it was, you know, heads and shoulders above any of those others. I don't think it's even better than any of those others, really. So not sure what's up with that excuse. The previous excuse for why they didn't have a manual in the Supra is he said, oh, well, our study groups our focus groups that we, you know, studied said that, you know, it didn't matter to them whether it was manual or automatic, which clearly everyone online wants a manual. And I mean, some of you, even in the comment section, claim to have been considering a new Supra, but only if it comes with a manual. So, I mean, we'll have to see how many actual buyers want a manual, and that'll just show in the sales numbers for the Supra if it tanks and everyone says if it had a manual, revealed, we would buy it, then maybe they'll actually put one in, because we know the framework is there since it's going to be in the new Z4. Anyway, moving on from that whole thing, this report is also saying we're going to see it in the second half of 2018, which is sooner than other reports saying we weren't going to see it till next year. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's all still up in the air. One thing, though, that engineer did confirm, though, is he said that the Supra will race at Le Mans and eventually, and it'll be in the GTE class. That's a bold statement because the GTE class consists of cars like the Ferrari 488, Ford GT, Porsche 911, and Aston Martin Vantage. So it's going to be racing alongside those vehicles, which are all supercars. And yeah, so for the Supra to do that type of stuff, I mean, obviously, maybe the race version would be much, much faster, but still, that's the type of platform, and I guess what they're thinking, that's the direction they're going at. Now, who knows if it's going to be competitive in that class, but that is the class it's supposedly going to be racing in. So we'll have to wait and see. They could have a lot of really cool surprises up their sleeve for this new Supra. Maybe it's actually going to get like an M3 motor in it or something and have 450 horsepower. That would be a nice surprise. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, some other stuff that's still hidden in mystery here is Chevy had a dealer convention in Vegas this week, and they showed dealers 2 pictures of a mid-engine Corvette. Unfortunately, those pictures did not leak because it was no phones allowed at all in this room whenever they showed these 2 pictures. And apparently those 2 pictures didn't even show much. But from someone named Nate Chandler of Van Bortel Chevrolet, he reported that it looks very mid-engined and that the front hood reminded him of a Lotus. So I'm thinking maybe like the Elise. It's got those like black vents. They're pretty large there in the front. I'm not sure. But the fact this was shown at a Chevy event means this is definitely going to be a Chevy. There was rumors that it could be a Cadillac, and there still are rumors that maybe a Cadillac version will come from this Corvette or whatever they end up calling it. But yeah, I'm thinking, it's going to, definitely be a Chevy if it's shown at a Chevy event. But anyway, we'll have to wait for more on that. Who knows when that's finally going to be shown to us. Another vehicle that we do know when it's going to be shown to us, though, is Ford has just shown a teaser video for the all-new 2019 Focus, which is going to be debuting next week, actually, for the European version. That's what we've been seeing. Testing over in Europe was the European version. We haven't seen any Focuses, I don't think, here in the States testing, or very, very few. So who knows when we're going to see the US version, but at least we'll see the European version next week. So, we've already seen lots of spy pictures of it. It looks like a mix of the Volvo headlights in the front there and some Subaru-inspired taillights in the back, in similar shape to like a Subaru Impreza hatchback. Autoblog is also reporting that the US version is going to be built in China, though, and we are going to be getting that Chinese-built version here. So we could, and that's where they're all going to be getting built, I guess, supposedly. So it sounds like we might be actually getting a American version of this not too much later after the European version. So we'll have to see. And there, of course, along with that, there's been a resurfacing of the rumors that I mentioned a couple of months ago now about the rumors that there being a 400 horsepower hybrid Focus RS in the works as well for somewhere around 2020 or so. But we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of cool hybrid stuff, though, Autocar is reporting that Alfa Romeo is developing a coupe version of the Giulia, which we've heard about a lot in the past. It would make sense. There's coupe versions of all the other luxury brands, small car. So that would go, hand in hand. And it would have a carried over front end from the regular Giulia. But from that point on, all the rest of the back of the vehicle would be unique, obviously, for the coupe. They said it's going to be revealed this year, supposedly, and will go on sale next year. It would start off with the standard 2-liter 4-cylinder, as the regular Giulia is the standard motor in the coupe. But there will be performance versions, including most likely a quadrifoglio version with a 505 horsepower, twin-turbo V6. But also, they're saying there's a possible GTV version that's could be coming. It's being developed. That's going to add on to the quadrifoglio's engine with a F1 style KERS system, and so it would have a max of 641 horsepower. We'll have to wait and see how that, if that actually turns out to be true, but that would put it as the top dog above, the C63s and all that type of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see, but that is awesome to hear. Another car that could be getting a faster version here is the Kia Stinger. So AutoGuide spoke with Kia's North American product planner, who said Kia is open to making other variants of the Stinger, including higher performing versions, as long as sales and interest are strong. So, those of you that might want a faster Stinger, if you wait, then that might not happen. But if you buy a current Stinger GT and then upgrade later to a faster one, that's what's going to get these higher performing versions made. They need to sell regular Stingers first, and then, that will allow them to make other variants. So he said, we're going to be very aggressive for the life cycle of this vehicle. We're going to be very aggressive with the colors. It's a fashion statement. You have to keep the car going with powertrain variants and other stuff coming down the road. I think this is something that we have to keep fresh. It's a want car, not a need car. So, it's one of those things that they want to make it desirable. They want to make it, exciting and have something new around the corner all the time, much like how BMW does, for example. They use BMW's former engineer to develop the Stinger. And, with BMWs, they have special editions, they have competition packages, they have, all these different versions. And so I think that's kind of what they're going to be maybe doing here. We'll have to wait and see. But they're going to have more luxurious versions as a possibility as well. Keep our fingers crossed for all those versions, because the regular Stinger GT is already fantastic. Other Kia news is they actually showed a refresh for the Optima at the New York Auto Show, and it was just mild enough that I didn't think it was worth its own video. And you can see it's got a new front bumper, new wheels are available, there's ambient lighting now, they've improved the Uvo infotainment system, there's new passion red paint that's available, there's also a few new colors for the interior and things like that. They also said they're adding more of the standard safety tech and things like that, but they didn't say any kind of pricing yet for this refreshed 2019 Optima, but it's going to be available later this year. So anyway, another vehicle that also got a very mild refresh that was shown at New York that I didn't bother filming is Mazda showed a very mild refresh of the 2019 CX-3. And so basically it's got a new grille that now has these double slats for each row. There's updated taillights in the back, and that's basically it as far as the exterior changes go. Under the hood, it's got a 2-liter and 4-cylinder engine still, but it's been slightly tweaked. It gets 2 more horsepower and 2 more pound-feet of torque. Although Mazda says there's more torque across the wider range of the power band there, and it now gets better fuel economy, but they didn't give any specific numbers. They also said steering and suspension have been retuned, and now they all come with the G vectoring control as well for better handling. They also say it's quieter inside now with thicker door panels and rear door glass. And the seats have been redesigned as well to be wider and more comfortable, and the new front and rear armrests are also improved. So, some nice little changes there to, I think, some of the weak spots that people have been reporting in the CX-3. But anyway, these are going to be available late this spring, but pricing has not been announced yet. Mazda also announced at New York that they're finally going to be offering Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in the Mazda 6. The 2018 Mazda 6 is the only model and the first model to get it. So they said that those that already bought a 2018 Mazda 6, you'll be able to update your infotainment system to include it as well. I'm not sure if there's any changes made to 2018 Mazda 6 infotainments, but I'm pretty sure it's the same as all the other ones basically over the past few years. So that gives hope that there will be some type of update that'll be able to add it on to, existing Mazda models with that infotainment system. But Mazda hasn't said anything. They didn't say any new models, especially, this new CX-3 refresh. You would think, hey, we're just showing this in New York as well. Let's make the announcement there. But they deliberately didn't say it for any other model other than the Mazda 6, which makes me think they're trying to keep this as like an exclusive thing only for the 6 for now, which would be really unfortunate if that's the case. But hopefully they roll it out to everything soon. But anyway, so interesting at least to see that Mazda is starting to add on some Apple CarPlay and Android Auto functionality there. Audi this past week was spied testing the new S6 Avant in Europe. And so the front end doesn't look much different than a regular new A6 that we've already seen a few weeks ago. But the S6 will probably get the same motor that's used in the new RS5, which is the twin-turbo 2.9-liter V6. And so anyway, that S6 Avant should be coming before the end of the year. Whether we get it or not remains to be seen. We'll probably get the sedan version, but as far as the wagon version, that's always an iffy thing, and most likely we probably won't get it, sadly. Another practical SUV that's going to be very fast, BMW was spied testing the next-gen X5M. So we haven't seen the official images of the new X5 yet, but supposedly this X5M version is coming shortly thereafter because it looks pretty finished there. It's got the same huge grille like all the other new BMW BMW SUVs that are coming. The X7 also has a very toothy grille there. And according to Motor Trend, it's likely going to be using the same 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 that's in the new M5 that makes 600 horsepower. And they've been using the twin turbo 4.4 liter V8 in the previous versions of the X5M as well. It just like started, I think, at like 550 odd horsepower and keeps on working its way up. So naturally 600 sounds about right. Also, this new X5 platform it's going to be based on, though, is going to be lighter, which should make the X5M lighter as well, which will make it better handling and faster than ever before, which is the way things usually go. But that's really great news. And so yeah, hopefully we see a reveal of that before the end of the year, but who knows. Other BMW news, though, that is a little bit funny here is BMW is rolling out a new subscription service that they're going to be testing only in Nashville, Tennessee at first. And it's only one dealership in Nashville where you can get this. It's called Access by BMW. And so there's two different tiers for this subscription service. The first is $2,000 a month and gets you access to an X5, a 530e, and a 440 Coupe. And like all these other subscription services that a few other companies have done, it includes insurance, roadside assistance, and maintenance, which, is usually a pretty good value. But Jalopnik points out you could actually lease all three of those vehicles, all for less than $2,000 a month, and have all three at the same time. Whereas the subscription thing, you got to swap out and constantly be changing cars and stuff, which I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some people that enjoy like treating their car like a rental car, but for me, I wouldn't want to have to reset all my settings and change everything. And you get used to a car and you kind of make changes and get everything just right. And so having to constantly be swapping out cars, I don't know why all these car companies think this subscription service is the future. I'm sure for people in like New York City that don't like owning cars anyway, and maybe LA, it makes sense for areas like that. But otherwise, I don't see the rest of the country going for this, especially not Nashville, Tennessee, and especially whenever it's not really worth it. I mean, yes, you have to pay for your own insurance if you lease all three of those cars individually, but it still just seems kind of weird because even with a lease from BMW, you get free scheduled maintenance as well. So this doesn't really add that much value other than the free insurance. And so, but it's not absurdly priced. I mean, Cadillac will give you for $1,800 their book subscription service. That gets you the CT6, Escalade, and XT5. But those are all a lot more expensive, and usually, I guess. But anyway, to go one step further, BMW is going to be offering an M tier, which is $3,700 a month. So that gives you access to the new M5, the X6M, and an M4 convertible. But that's still 3 times the amount of a lease payment at that Nashville, Tennessee dealer for an M5. So you could have 3 M5 leases, or you could probably still, again, lease an M5, an X6M, and an M4 convertible, all for less than $3,700 a month, and have all 3 at the same time instead of just swapping out from rental cars that aren't your own. And they also pointed out, Jalopnik did, that you could finance a brand new M5. And if you had $3,700 a month to put towards a car payment, you could have it paid off in roughly 2 years. So it's I don't know how this makes financial sense. I get that insurance is expensive, and maybe that's where they feel the bargain is. But to me, it doesn't make sense, at least not as a yearly subscription. And I'll get more to this in a second, because Lincoln has also announced this past week they're going to be offering a subscription service, and so they haven't named their program, but it's going to be a subscription to pre-owned 2017 Lincolns, which is kind of weird. So now you're renting used cars. But anyway, so this is going to be rolling out in West LA and San Francisco. And Ford already has a program called Canvas in those areas, and it's for Ford vehicles. And it's only $400 a month, which is a lot more reasonable. But again, it's still a lot more than just taking a zip car every once in a while or whatever it is, you need to do when it comes to, renting a car occasionally. But anyway, the key, though, with the Lincoln thing, and maybe some of the others will offer this, I just know Lincoln has highlighted here, with their program, you can do the subscription, you can cancel it at any time. It's only on a per-month basis. So you can do this subscription service for 1 month, 12 months, whatever. And that would make a lot more sense, because someone like me, for example, I'm going to be getting my Bullet. I don't want to drive it in the snow. My wife has a car and I'll have press cars, but if you're not someone that has press cars and things like that, or if I didn't think I would get press cars during the winter, I would gladly, pay a lease payment throughout the winter to have some winter beater and then turn it in April and, then go back to the Bullet. And this way I don't have to actually lease a car for an entire year and, have it sit all summer whenever I'm driving the Bullet. So something like that makes a lot of sense. And I would personally be interested in a subscription service that you could cancel at any time. And if I could lease or, do a subscription lease for, a few months and just go through the winter with a nice all-wheel drive SUV or something, fine. And that would be really great. But, only for areas like that where you have very wildly changing weather. For an area like West LA or even San Francisco, it's not like there's a huge change in climate, so I don't know why you'd have to swap out from different vehicles unless you need a pickup truck only part of the time and you want a Mustang the other part. I could see something like that. But for Lincoln, they don't have a diverse enough range to really make sense with something like that. But we'll see, and maybe if they roll it out to other areas, it'll make more sense. And Auto Guide this past week discovered that Hyundai has filed a trademark and patent for the Palisade name here in the United States. And so this is likely what they're going to be calling their three-row SUV that's going to take the top spot above the Santa Fe. And this is also, we just saw these spied a few weeks ago. The Kia Telluride is probably what they're going to be calling their version. And then, this is, I guess, what they'll be calling the Hyundai version is the Palisade, which is a good name for something like that. And so anyway, cool to see them discover that. And the last few stories this week are about things going away, sadly. But some of it isn't so sad. The first is there's a new report about some cars getting killed off. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Chevy is going to be ending production of the Sonic as soon as this year. Now, this isn't confirmed, just their report. But the Sonic hasn't sold very well. There's very low profit margins on them anyway. And so they're also saying that they're continuing, they're considering discontinuing the Impala, which again makes sense. Hardly anyone buys them. The Malibu is as big as the Impala now, so it really doesn't make any sense. They're not even used for fleet uses really anymore. So I don't see why the Impala is still around. I mean, it's sad. It's a great historic nameplate, but I could see that easily going away. This report goes on to say, though, that Ford is planning to stop offering the Fiesta here in the States. We already know there's a next-gen version for Europe and the rest of the world, but we are not going to be getting that here in the States, according to their report, and that's what we've been fearing all along. We haven't heard anything about a U.S. version of that Fiesta, and so it's most likely going to be getting killed off. They also said they're considering killing off they're planning on killing off the Taurus as well, which again makes sense except for the fleet uses. There still are a decent amount of them that are sold to police departments and stuff, but Ford has recently been pushing pursuit rated versions of the Fusion instead and been trying to get Fusions out there instead of the Taurus. I mean, the Taurus, again, it's still really outdated, really not a great driving vehicle. I mean, it's comfortable and smooth, I'll give it that. But, it's not very fast, doesn't handle great, even in the show versions. It's just, it's okay. It's not awful, but nothing remarkable either, and I think the Fusion Sport it actually feels a lot better. So anyway, so that's what the report's saying there. They're also saying, though, the Ford still isn't sure what to even do with the Fusion long term, since sales of that continue to go down as everyone's just obsessed with SUVs here in the States. And it even goes so far in the Wall Street Journal report to say that Fiat Chrysler is even considering killing off the Chrysler 300 and the Dodge Charger. And those two don't make much sense to kill off, in my opinion. The Chrysler 300 is the only other Chrysler offered other than the Pacifica. I mean, so basically if they got rid of the 300, not only does that give up the whole luxury idea of FCA, but it also, it's again, you're going to only have one car for the entire brand of Chrysler. It doesn't seem like it makes any sense. Why did they go to the trouble of branding it a Chrysler? They should have just called it the Dodge Caravan if they were going to do that, for the new Pacifica, and get rid of Chrysler and dissolve it altogether if that's what they wanted to do. So I don't know if I believe that one. Also, the Charger, maybe doesn't sell as well as like the Durango or something, but again, the Charger I think sells decently well, and it goes with the whole muscle theme within Dodge, and there's been even reports that they're going to develop a next gen version of the Charger that's also going to be shared with the Challenger, and I think those two really go well together, and you can throw all the same engines in all of them. It's a really cool combo. So I hope that one turns out to be false for sure, and that's just a wild rumor, because that would be a bummer. According to Automotive News, BMW isn't sure if there's going to be a next-gen version of the i3 and i8. And currently, supposedly it's being debated internally what to do with it, if they're going to do a new next-gen version of those or not. Because both were recently refreshed, so it's not going to be anything that happens super soon, but in the next few years here, they'll have to figure out what to do. But BMW's head of electric powertrain said it's too early to say, what they're going to end up doing. But he did say that these cars are very unique and weren't developed as a family that we can expand in different ways. So I think they're kind of limited. It's expensive to develop both, but then again, they do want to go full on with their electric vision and all type of stuff. We know the new i4 is coming. So, it could be that the i3 just turns into a smaller version of that instead. The i8, who knows, they needed that halo car to kind of be like, hey, we're doing electric stuff, but now they don't need that. I think that's kind of been established. So maybe the i8 will go away with the new, 8 series and things like that. They're going to have a new halo car. Who knows? Again, we'll have to wait and see. It's too early to say. But anyway, that's something that's currently being debated, supposedly. Also, Auto RAI is reporting that Lexus of Europe has stopped taking orders for the GS, and they actually are going to be ending production of the European version of the Lexus GS at the end of this month, or by the end of this month. And so the next-gen ES, they're saying, is what's going to take its place in Europe, at least. The head of Lexus Australia, though, last year, I guess these rumors have been going around for a while now that the GS is getting killed off, because it's a slow seller everywhere. But Lexus Australia last year, the head of Lexus Australia, they refuted claims of the GS dying and said he thinks a new GS would still be a four-door sedan for this next-gen version, but could go liftback and possibly to compete with the German stuff. So yeah, I think what he's thinking is, hey, we'll make our own version of the Audi A5 Sportback, or the 4 Series GT or whatever, those types of vehicles that I guess some people like. I don't know. I mean, the A5 Sportback is kind of cool, but the BMW one just is a little too frumpy looking to be desirable in my mind. But yeah, so we'll have to see, if they want to do something like that, make the GS more of a sporty, less practical sedan, and make the ES the big boxy one for comfort or whatever. And that could make sense, because right now I think the GS and the ES are a little too similar, and that might be part of what's hurting them. The Lexus Enthusiast Forum, though, a member there did discover that the next GS is still visible within the industry database, whatever that means, but it's supposedly scheduled still to start production in the second quarter of 2019. So if that is true, then that means we could see some type of new GS before the end of the year, possibly, at least in a concept form or something. But anyway, interesting to hear that. Also, Auto Express talked with Jaguar SVO design director Wayne Burgess, who cast some doubt here on the future of the Jaguar R models. So he said, to be completely honest, Jaguar is a fairly small brand, and we probably, in reality, there is not enough room in each model line to have an R and an SVR model. We have found F-Type R and SVR kind of compete against each other. The truth of the matter is that F-Type R is a great car, and in some respects, SVR has a challenging time because the R is such a good car in the first place. But the funny thing that they didn't mention is the SVR is having a hard time because it's $22,000 more expensive than the F-Type R, and you only get 25 extra horsepower. So you're paying almost $1,000 per horsepower. I mean, yes, the SVR has other improvements, and it's a very sweet car, but if I was spending my own money, I would also skip the SVR and go for the R, and in that case, I'd go for a used R for half the price. But yeah, so I think that's the problem, is it's, way too expensive. Other SVR models, like the F-Pace SVR is going to be starting like $82,000. So, if they want to make the SVR the same price as the current, RF type, okay, fine, makes sense, make it cheaper, more power, everyone wins. But if they kill off the R and just have this big gap and have the SVR still be super expensive for the F-Type, then, I think it's going to be over like almost a $40,000 gap between the V6 one and the full-on V8 SVR. So that would, I think, be bad in my mind. But anyway, we'll have to see what they end up doing. Hopefully it works out so that, it's not some huge gap there. And the last British thing that's actually being confirmed to be going away way, is the Top Gear test track. So it's officially called the Dunsfold Aerodrome, and the government there has approved a proposal to build 1,800 houses on the land instead of, keeping it as this track. And so I guess Top Gear only rented it since it still, I guess, is some type of active airstrip and things like that. So Top Gear didn't own it; they just rented it out, and so I guess it's out of their control. And so Top Gear is going to have to find a new place, but the Top Gear test track is almost like a historical landmark in my mind. There's just so many awesome things that happened there. So much great television history happened there. And for them to just, tear it all up and put in stupid houses just seems unfortunate to me. But hey, not everyone's a car enthusiast. If they need more housing in that area, so be it. I guess that's progress. So anyway, that's it for all the news this week. Sorry I ended on a little bit of a bummer there. But thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care.